Today we take a trip down memory lane with some of the lead developers of Borderlands 2, where they tell us about their experiences and impressions of the first Borderlands.
My favorite memory from the first Borderlands was probably the first time you step into Old Haven. It's just, you're coming across a whole new enemy type, and they also drop tons of loot, and it's kind of just a big free-for-all in this urban environment where you have no idea what's going to show up, where the enemies are going to show up, and it's the best played in co-op. I love getting on top of all the buildings, jumping across and finding the little treasure chests that we've hidden all across the area in there, and I just have a blast sniping down on the Crimson Lance.
When we were making the first Borderlands, we had this great idea of combining sort of the RPG addictive elements of Diablo, but with all the intensity and gameplay of a first-person shooter. And so we're working on this game, and this was the game that I always wanted to play. So I was in heaven making this game. I was having a blast, having a great time. But there's always this concern in the back of my head, like, does the world want this game as much as I do? And I didn't know, and none of us did really. And so as we're making the game, we at one point we revealed the game to the world. Sending it out in some magazines and things, and so there was some buzz and people were excited, and then at one point Randy Pitchford, he did not an interview, he did a showcase where they showed off some of the gameplay of the game, and there was some of the footage leaked out onto the internet. What someone had done on the internet is they had taken that video and frame by frame they started dissecting it, and there was one frame with every gun that dropped where the item card popped up, so they actually had access to some stats and the name and things. Now what we did is all our guns, we tried to give them very unique names. And so what this website had done is they'd taken all these frames of all the different guns, and they'd started taking the names of the guns and dissecting what the name meant with the different attributes. So like, oh, GLR means damage, but if you get an XBL, then you get more critical hit, or whatever. But they started dissecting the system. And that was actually the moment on the first Borderlands where we went, actually people in the world are just as nuts about having this game as I am. This is really exciting. That was one of my favorite memories on the first game.
Typically when you make a first-person shooter, you think like, okay, we're going to have our 12 or 20 guns or whatever they are, like, we're going to have a shotgun. Okay, what kind of shotgun should we have, right? So are we going to have a shotgun that has a wide spread or a narrow spread? How fast is it going to reload? Is it single barrel or double barrel or five barrel? Like, you have that, like, what's going to be our one shotgun? And, early on we kind of had this, like, well, we should have all the shotguns, right? Like, let's make a system, and that's kind of like where the genesis of the procedural weapons generation system started to come from, where we wanted to have we wanted to have all this choice, right? Because there's trade-offs between them. I think Steve Jones or somebody, or maybe it was Jimmy, rigged up you just press the G button, or was it the H button, and it will just spawn a randomly generated weapon. And then you press it again, you spawn another one, and you just start spamming it. It's like, and you're just spewing weapons everywhere. And it's like the first time that happened, it was just like, holy shit! Like that just changed everything. It was like, okay, we as we talk about this game, like when we demonstrate it for the first time, we need to kind of cheat and do that because there's this feeling that we get when we realize that now we're in a world where there can be millions of guns, that just changes everything. And because it implies all those things about choice and growth and discovery and all those things that we know are so great.
I have destroyed you. A deadly shot from nowhere.
Nice!
I think my favorite moment was actually before I was on the Borderlands team. Gearbox decided that we really needed to test Borderlands 1, and so we deployed it out to the whole company, the alpha build. And I spent the entire day playing Borderlands 1, and that was the day when I knew we had something special. And I think we all sort of realized, everyone's looking around at each other and like, wow, can we just keep playing? And I just didn't want to, like, people were getting mad that their save games were getting deleted and stuff like that. It's just this moment where, wow, this is actually going to be something really, really fun.
So my favorite memory of Borderlands 1 was probably playing through the Zombie Island DLC as Lilith and shooting them with electricity and corrosive and then killing somebody and then setting them all on fire so that 3 different colored numbers were spraying off of everything that I just walked past. That was when I learned what it was to be a man.
So on one hand, Borderlands 1 becomes kind of like the baseline model. You can say, we can now see and play all the things that worked, and we know that we have to, we have to respect that quality in Borderlands 2. We can't just make a totally different game, right? We have to respect and value why that worked. Borderlands 2 is kind of like that. It's like the 2.0, like the perfected iteration. It's got new stuff, but it doesn't forget what made it great, and it iterates that though to polish it and make it more great, make it more perfect. And I think that's kind of the best analogy in short notice that I can come up with.
So you might remember that we are also running a Borderlands competition, and the second question for the competition is, what was the name of the second DLC package for the first Borderlands? Save the answer for now and make sure to follow us tomorrow where we get an exclusive tour of the Gearbox software studio.